come a long way in a short time, and I'm just so excited for you to be able to share with everyone on the call, some of the steps that you've taken to be able to grow your business. So, give you a little background. It wasn't it wasn't long ago that Josh didn't even really have a business, and he was working in corporate, and then he's built himself a really substantial business, which is something that many people aspire to get to the level that he's at. And the good thing about him is he's not satisfied, because I keep pushing him to grow bigger. But he was able to do this without a sense of, well, no, you did spend a little money advertising, trying some stuff, but, you were able to build your business just reaching out and offering your services. So why don't you go ahead and give us a quick background, and then kind of dive into the story of, how did you go? What steps did you take, that our audience can learn from to, to move from being an employee in the corporate world to having your own, nice multi six-figure marketing agency in about 4.5, 5 months?
Sure. Well, I think one of the key things starting out was to have a plan. The plan changed a few times along the way. And one of the really great things I found was I started out putting together the services that I could offer to people, and the people I talked to sort of explained it, had a strategy call with, really got an idea of what I could do and how I could help them get their message out. And ultimately, it was interesting. I'm fairly technical, so was able to put together all the different online funnels and autoresponders and everything. But what it actually turned out with what I was doing was the personal touch was the most important one. There were just people I knew where I could have a conversation and talk about where they were at, what they needed to do, and sort of say, hey, that's right up my alley in terms of things I can do, and let's see if there's something that'll help you grow the business. And that proved to be very effective in terms of just telling people what you could do, and then working with them to achieve that.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And so, how did you come up with the different strategies that you use to reach out to people and position yourself in a way that you can present an offer to them?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's telling people about how you can either solve a problem, or how there's a new tool that maybe can help them with what they're doing. A lot of people. One example that I've used a few times is I know a lot of people who want more awareness for their product or service. Weren't necessarily terribly familiar with retargeting, so it was easy just to give people an example, sort of say, hey, when you're on Amazon, you look at shoes or a trash can, they follow you around everywhere. You don't need to be a billion-dollar company. You can do that for your cookie business out of your house, or you can do that for your local auto repair shop. And people appreciate sort of that learning that you can provide to them. And then a lot of times it's, great, can you do that for me, or can you teach me to do that? And like you were saying earlier about the model, sometimes you end up with people who just want you to do it. Sometimes you end up with people who are more hands-on and want coaching. And all of those things, help with sort of building trust and establishing relationships where you're getting paid to help people.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And so let me stop because I want to take a step back and ask you, like, where were you like in mindset from, say, maybe when you first started reaching out, when you got your first client and everything, and like your confidence level of like you just did whatever you needed to do to get that first client, and then you got that second client, you started getting results. So, as you do that, you're obviously able, you have more confidence, and you know what you're doing is working. So what has that done for your mindset in seeing your true value where you're able to ask for money?
Yeah, obviously it's tremendously helpful as you have more success. It sort of builds on itself. You're more aware of what people both need as a client, but also what they'll respond to as a prospective client. And it also gives you a much better sense of what that worth is of the consulting you're providing. If it's if you're just working with one client, that sort of becomes the whole client universe, and obviously things change. People are in different positions. Once you're sort of building up that portfolio, there's overlap. You can deploy more resources, deliver better results, and it's much easier to get more clients from the standpoint of asking for referrals, or people who are in similar businesses, where if you've really knocked it out of the park for someone in town A, it's easy in town B to say I'm an expert on storage, and why not take advantage of all the learnings we got in this other city to build your business further?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I just love that, and I think it's so critical, for all of us just to get out there and get that first client if you're starting. So, you were able to build and scale your business in a relatively fast time and get that done. So, what were some of the things that helped you do that so rapidly?
Um, I think one is just sort of the mindset in terms of having a group that you're accountable for. It's a lot easier to let things slip if you're on your own and responsible for them. My disorganized basement's a pretty good example of that.
Yeah.
But having a group and a coach you're accountable for is huge. Having some congruency in terms of really buying in with yourself in terms of, I need to get to point X, so I'm going to do what I need to do to get there. And then the third thing that helped was anything system-wise that you can come up with to make it easier. I mean, you may know, 100 people who you think would be good to talk to, but spending, an hour writing a personalized email to each one of them, that's a lot of time. If you can spend 5 minutes customizing the personal part, but then, I use the same example for retargeting a lot of time. I don't come up with a new example of
Yeah.
retargeting for everyone. So it's a lot easier to have that conversation than reinvent the wheel for everyone you're talking to.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And let me just ask you. So, like, in case anyone doesn't know, I mean, Josh had come to me, for some coaching. So I just wonder, like, when you were new to this business, although not the industry, you were, have been doing marketing in the corporate world and different things like that. But what was it that made you want to reach out to a coach when you decided that this was a path that you were going to pursue?
Sure. I think a lot of it was sort of the been there, done that track record. I mean, in the corporate world, I probably spent $2 to $5 million a year for the last decade in terms of online marketing. And when you're doing that, you generally want to work with an agency that has a really good track record and that is going to deliver results. So very similar sort of thing here, and that I knew, from doing, one-off things for friends or people I knew over time. Knowing the material is different than maybe knowing how to sell it. It's or how to scale it. It's easy to be at a very small base, but trying to grow, all of a sudden there are a whole lot of considerations, and certainly having a coach who's helped a lot of people figure out how to grow really, really can shorten a lot of the missteps you make along the way.
Got you. So when, I think I'm going to ask one more question, and then I would encourage anyone on the broadcast to type any questions in so Philip can let us know that we have questions. So if you have something specific to ask Josh, that we can get that answered for you. But when you started in this venture, and when you and I first started working together, and you looked at some numbers that you wanted to create and some different things, did you realize that, like, now knowing what you know and have been, through everything that you have, did you realize in the beginning that, like, when I talked about 6-figure months, that that was actually achievable and a plan that you can just map out and follow?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that feels sometimes hard to wrap your head around, the idea that that's achievable. And I think personally, what I did starting out was I had a goal that was important to me. Not that 6 figures is not important, but really I needed to get somewhere. So essentially I could be working out of the house for personal reasons. That was going to be very important, growing family, versus what was just a hellacious commute. And that was really sort of the, I got to burn the boat and get there.
Yeah.
And that really was a powerful motivating factor. And the fact that there was a plan to get me there was just absolutely crucial. I mean, the 6-figure plan was nice, and seeing people hit it is incredibly motivating. But the thing that got me out of my comfort zone and taking action was this thing needed to happen, and this was how I was going to get there.
Yeah, no, I love it. If you were going, and it may seem funny asking you this, but being where you are now as opposed to where you were when you started, if for some reason you had to start brand new all over today, would there be anything that you would do different that you see would fast track any more than the blazing speed you've ever been on? Any lessons you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, one of the CEOs I've worked with, likes to say success leaves clues. The coaching was incredibly important. There's always some things in hindsight where you're like, well, that could have been a little different here or there. But I think a lot of those things are, sort of the path you take, and that it was go this way, go this way, go this way. I started out thinking things would, take shape in one very specific way. Turns out totally different, totally great. And I think that's where having a coach and a community to bounce ideas off of is very important, as opposed to sitting in your bunker, determined that you are going to be the greatest buggy whip salesman that ever lived.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, that is, that's incredible, and
Yeah.
it's always, you know, it's always just about a requirement to be adaptable. And like you said, you thought things were going to go one way and they went a totally different way, but that's perfectly fine. Rather than getting frustrated and say, man, this isn't working, it's like, so you do something and you look at it and measure it and say, boom, let's make an adjustment and go a different way, and things, things start to happen. And that kind of goes into that kind of goes into that mindset and that CEO mentality that I speak about. And, even in the fourth principle of knowing your numbers and, kind of looking at things, because you can't really manage what you don't measure. So when you really become that business owner instead of that consultant, you can see which way, you have to adjust and take your business to be able to get the success that you want.
Yeah, I mean, when and what I found was when you're having these conversations, it gives you a handle on what people are looking for, and when you have that second or third conversation where someone says, "Boy, I need X," or "Boy, there's an issue with X in our market," um, it's sort of like the joke about God sending down the helicopter and the ladder and everything else to get someone off that flooded rooftop. At a certain point, you just grab the ladder and go, I think I'm over here today, and go with it.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great, man. Well, do if if um, if someone was sitting back right now and they, wanted to just go out and get busy, what would be the number one tip that you could give them?
I guess I'd have two. One is talk to someone who's been there. I mean that's the coaching piece of it. Is it's a whole lot easier to have someone help you put together a path than it is to sit down with a blank yellow pad and assume you're going to draw it out all correctly. And number two is if you've got a passion or an interest that you want to share, talk to a few people who might be, potential customers, just saying, hey, I've got an idea. How does this resonate? Is this something you use? Just do a little market research to get a feel for it, so you have an idea where you can go as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, well, man, I really want to congratulate you on all of your success and just taking the actions, that you needed to take. It just, it's still, and I don't think you realize, what an incredible path it is that you just set your mind to do this thing, and you did it at night, while you still had your corporate job. You enabled yourself to, leave your job, and now you have the new baby, and you're working from at home, and you're continuing to make plans to grow your business. So, man, I honor you for that, and I really appreciate your time being on the webcast today, just so people can hear your story and get some inspiration to that, that they can do it too. So that was that was my whole purpose today, is to see how you could deliver some value to everyone, and inspire them to take action in their own life and in their own business. So I really appreciate it, man.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jimmy.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, all right, my man, I will catch up with you soon, and thank you for being on today.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
We do have a question for Josh.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
It's from guest 8071, and the question is, hi, Josh. Are you offering full-service marketing agency services, or do you focus on one specific area of marketing? If the former, how have you staffed yourself or leveraged other resources to handle the client workload? If the latter, How did you pick what particular service to offer, assuming you can do a variety of tech-related marketing services?
Great question. It's the latter, and I guess I've gravitated towards those areas. A, I really like doing, and B, that there's a market for. So a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in SEO and pay-per-click. So I've gravitated towards those. There are particular niches within those that people need help with. And when you can get that specific, it makes it a lot easier to find the resources to help you. If you're able to say, I need someone who does, thing X within this part of the SEO world, that's a whole lot easier than saying, I need someone who does online marketing to help me out. So it becomes a lot easier to staff that way.
Yes, yes, definitely. And and I would I'd like to throw in there for for the question. I know the question was for you, but I mean, what I always advise is, what Josh said is absolutely spot on. And so it has to be something that's marketable. It has to be something that someone needs. But if you are able to do a whole bunch of things, I would really encourage you to knock that down to a suite of services that are all complementary to each other. Like if you were going to do SEO or PPC and retargeting, like maybe a combo of those three things, because the more you can niche down and do what you want to do, the more proficient you become in that, the more of an expert you become in that, and the fewer things that you focus on, the better results that you can get for your clients. So whether it's coaching or offering services and any of that, I wouldn't do what I could do. I would do what I enjoyed do and what I was best at, what I was most competent in. And so I think just to build upon that, Josh, and to go back, I think right now you're setting up some systems, but you're mostly doing everything yourself. But doing that everything yourself is what, taking you 35, 40 hours a week, which is basically got freed up from not doing your from being able to leave your corporate position.
Yeah, and that's part of what'll scale from here is having additional resources as the business continues to grow.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I love it.